Chapter 11 Captain Wentworth Comes to Bath. Captain Wentworth was already on his way to Bath before the Crofts had written to him he arrived. The very next time Anne was out in town, she saw him. Anne was walking with Elizabeth, Mr. Clyde, and Miss Elliot in Milson's secret when it started to rain. While the ladies waited in a shop, Mr. Elliot went to find a carriage for Mr. Elliot and Mr. Clyde. Anne looked out of the window and suddenly saw Captain Wentworth walking down the street. For a few moments she could not think or move. When she had calmed down, she found that Mr. Elliot had returned. He promised that the carriage would arrive soon, and then went out again to get something for Mr. Clay, and decided to go to the door and look outside for Captain Wentworth. But at the moment he walked into the shop with a group of friends. Captain Wentworth seemed surprised and confused when he saw Anne. He looked quite red, and for the first time Anne felt that the meeting was easier for her than for him, because she had seen him first. She had been prepared, but she was still full of feelings, partly great happiness and partly terrible pain. Captain Wentworth spoke to Anne and then turned away, embarrassed. Then, after a soft time, he came toward her and spoke again. He looked well, and he talked about Uppercross and mushrooms and even Louisa. However, he was much less calm and comfortable than before. Time had changed him, or Louisa had changed him. The carriage arrived, and Captain Wentworth offered to take Anne out to it. "Thank you," she said, "but I am not going with them. I am prepared to walk. I am just waiting for Mr. Elliot. He will be here in a moment, I am sure." The very moment Mr. Elliot came in, Captain Wentworth remembered him perfectly from that day when he had admired Anne on the steps of Lyme. Mr. Elliot did not look at anyone but Anne. He took her arm, and she walked out of the shop with him, and only had time to say a quickly good morning to Captain Wentworth. Anne found it difficult to listen to Mr. Elliot as they walked home. She thought think only of Frederick Wenderton. She needed to know how he felt about Lisa, until she knew that she could not be herself, and did not see Captain Wentworth for 2 days. The following evening, however, the Elliots were going to a concert, and Anne knew that Captain Wentworth loved concerts. If she could talk with him just for a few minutes, she hoped that she would understand his feelings better. She felt braver now, and was ready to start a conversation with him. When Captain Wentworth arrived at the assembly rooms the following evening, Anne moved forwards at once. She was ready to bow and move past, but Anne's gentle "How do you do?" stopped him. She came to stand near her, and they talked about the weather and Bath. Then Captain Wentworth said with a smile, "I have not really seen you since our day in Lyme. It was a terrible hour, a terrible day." He moved his hand across his face, as if it was still too painful to remember. Then he smiled a little again. "But some things that have happened because of that day are certainly not terrible. When you asked Benfish to go for a doctor, you surely did not know that he would make Miss Monrose better himself." "Certainly no, but I hope that they will be very happy together," said Anne. "Yes," said Captain Wentworth, "I very much hope so too. I am glad that they have not problems at home. Not one who is against their marriage, and nothing stopping them. All this will surely help them to find happiness. More happiness perhaps than—" He stopped. It seems that He had suddenly remembered something. Anne's cheeks had turned red, and she looked away from him. "I must say that I did not think they are very different," he went on. "Too different. Louisa Mountfort is very like Elvis sweet hair. But Bentridge is something more. He is a clever man, a man who reads. I am surprised by his attachment to Miss Monroy's. Fanny Hartfield was a much finer woman. He loved her very much. A man should not forget the strong feelings he had for a woman like Fanny." Captain Wentworth stopped, and Annie began to breathe quickly. She felt confused. Please surprise 100 different things in a moment. They said nothing for a while. Then Anne, not wanting to change the conversation too much, said, "You were in leave for a while, I think. About 2 weeks. I could not leave until I was sure that Louisa was getting better. I was wrong to let Louisa come. I was too weak. Because the accident was so much my fault, I had to stay. The countryside around Lyme is beautiful, and I walked and rode a lot." At the moment, some more people arrived, and Anne had to leave Captain Wentworth to go out and talk to them. Their conversations had brought her so much happiness. In only 10 minutes, she had learned so much more about his feelings for Louisa. As she walked into the concert room, her eyes were bright and her face was full of warmth. The way Captain Wentworth had talked, and everything he had said, could only mean one thing. His heart was turned back to her, and his anger was gone. Now there was not only friendship, but also some of the gentleness of the past. The change could only mean one thing: he must love her. Anne was so busy with her thoughts that she did not look around as she walked into the concert room. When she sat down next to Mr. Elliot, she found that she could not see Captain Wentworth. She was so happy that she enjoyed the first part of the concert very much. During one of the intervals, she explains the meaning of an Italian song to Mr. Elliot. She was sorry, she told him, that her Italian was not better. "You have just turned this difficult Italian into clear, beautiful English. You talk too little, all too many things you can do, Mr. Elliot. I have known you for longer than you think," he said. "How is that possible?" asked Anne. "You have only known me since I have been in Bath." "I have heard about you a long time before you came to Bath," Mr. Elliot replied. "You were described to me by someone who knows you very well. I have known everything about your character for many years. The name Anne Elliot has always been very interesting to me. I only hope that name will never change." Before she could think about Mr. Elliot's words, Anne saw Captain Wentworth. He was standing with a group of men, and when her eyes met his, he looked away from her. Then he moved away, and she needed to see him again. She was worried about what Mr. Elliot had said and did not want to talk to him anymore. At the next interval, Anne moved to another seat. She saw Captain Wentworth once more, and this time he came slowly towards her. He looked serious, and he was very different from the Captain Wentworth on their early conversation. He had not liked the singing, he said, and he was not very sorry when the concert was over. They talked for a few minutes, and his smile returned again for a while. But then Miss Elliot touched Anne's arms, asking her to explain some more Italian for one of the ladies. When Anne turned back to Captain Wentworth, he said quiet goodbye and turned to go. "Will you stay for this song?" Anne asked. "No," he replied. "There is nothing for me to stay for." And he was gone. He was jealous of Mr. Elliot. Anne could not quite believe it. For a moment, that thought gave her a beautiful feeling. But how could she calm his jealousies? How could he know the truth about her feelings? She had naught of things of Mr. Elliot's interested in her. It could only bring her terrible